February is the month that just a few things that you can do around the garden will impact how well your plants perform for the entire year. One of the first things that you want to do before the end of February is see if you have any perennials that you want to divide, or any transplants such as small shrubs that might be better off in a different area if they're overplanted. So whenever you do these transplants in the month of February, you're giving the roots time to get cozy and settle in their new homes before the demand of putting out top growth occurs. The thing that triggers that demand is the soil temperature. And after the month of February, the soil temperature generally starts to increase, and that's when the demand for putting out top growth will happen. So the longer your plants have to spend in the soil and get cozy in their new home before the soil temperatures start to go up, the better they can perform, because there won't be an imbalance of the roots being uncomfortable and it having to put out top growth at the same time. So the goal is to minimize the stress on the roots by moving them at the coolest time possible. One perennial that's perfect to divide this month is coneflowers, purple coneflowers to be more specific. They grow and reproduce so abundantly here in Zone 9A and Zone 9B that I can divide them sometimes twice a year. But I really like to do the most of the divisions for the biggest plants before the end of February. That's the key, before the end. So the sooner the better. The more time you can give those roots to get settled in their new home, the better the plant will perform for the rest of the year. Not just for the next set of blooms, but for the rest of the year, because the roots have had more time to get established. The other thing that it's a good time to do right now in your garden is go check for seedlings of your perennials and relocate them to a place that you might want them instead of where they just seeded. Let me give you an example. When I deadhead the purple coneflowers, I've been chopping and dropping those cuttings behind this bench. And what I noticed today when I was tidying up, that there's seedlings, coneflower seedlings, all over the place back here. These are coneflower seedlings. Those are coneflower seedlings. Those are coneflower seedlings back there. Here's some more over here. Even back there are coneflower seedlings that have popped up because I've been tossing the cuttings back here for the last year. So I'm going to go ahead and dig these up and move them to a better area of the garden. If you're wondering which plant is good for dividing, or if a certain plant can be divided, if it's trailing along the ground or growing in clumps, then 99% of the time it can be divided. Things like mondo grass, lorope, ajuga, mazes, any type of like clumping, spreading plant, and even lantanas. So just get out there and dig around, because February is the time to do these things. I cannot stress it enough. Now, it's not the end of the world if you decide to do this in March, but you're not going to have nearly as much of a show as you will if you get it done in February. And if you can't get it done in February, it's not the end of the world, but if you can, it's definitely worth doing. A lot of salvia in this area too that I should probably go ahead and tackle while I'm here under this juniper. And it was trying to grow between rocks. That's why the funky root system. And I don't need to keep all of this root. That I'm going to cut off. I'm only going to keep what looks proportionate for the plant. I don't need all of this part. I just need to keep this section right here. So I'm going to remove all of this. All we need is this. And trimming the roots like this does not hurt them. It actually stimulates it to send out more of these little fine feeder roots. So this is a good thing to do. So this leads me to another thing that you need to do in February when you go out there and you're looking for the perennial seedlings and possible divisions, any of those tasks that need to be done in February. The other thing that needs to be done, or that you should do, is go to your annual seed heads and start chopping them up in the areas you would like to see them grow, because 90% of the time they will reseed, just like the coneflowers that I was putting behind the bench. So this is the time that I go out and find any other annuals and perennials that have died back and start chopping up those seed heads too. Some of the best performing annuals for this chop and drop method of deadheading and chopping up in other areas of your garden are zinnias, cosmos, marigolds, periwinkles. All of those will reseed themselves up. They don't have to be perfect, and if you don't even have scissors, you can just break them off and crush them. If they're dry enough, you can crush them in place. but it helps your garden look tidier. There's no need to uproot plants like this, and there's no need, even if they're annuals, there's no need to uproot them either. So just a few days ago, I saw a post where somebody was asking, should I pull up my periwinkles now or should I wait? And all of the replies to that question were wait. And really, you shouldn't have to pull them up at all. There's no reason to pull up your periwinkles or your zinnias. Let the roots stay there and decompose and add stuff back to the soil. And that's what's best for the seed bank. You don't want to be going and disturbing the dirt. Anytime you can avoid disturbing the surface of your soil, avoid it at all costs, because the seed bank of dormant seeds that are laying there, that are waiting for sunlight to sprout, you have just brought them to the surface by pulling up those plants. You've brought those dormant seeds to the surface, and now you're going to have more weeds. So you want to keep that seed bank undisturbed, and the best way to do that is go and cut your annuals. So it's a 2-for-1 win-win situation. You go to your annuals, you chop them up so you can get the seeds to return without disturbing the seed bank of weeds that might be just beneath the soil. This is exactly what I'm going to do with these periwinkles. These, even though they're dead, this is next year's flowers. You do not have to go out and buy periwinkles every year. You just chop them up. Get them all cut up as much as possible and spread them out, sprinkle them out, whatever you got to do in your garden. And you can walk them over to other places. You don't even have to stay in the same spot. But the more you do this, the more seeds you will see come up on their own, and you don't have to go out and buy them. I mean, you will be amazed at the thousands of periwinkle seeds that will come up just from this one task. I was just chopping the dead flower heads off these periwinkles and noticed something that you should keep an eye out for too. These. Look. Further down the stem, there's life. Look at down this one. These will continue to sprout and grow and put out entire periwinkle plants if they are not exposed to a freeze. Believe it or not, this garden was at 20 degrees for several nights already just within the last month. So without even an extra layer of mulch, you can see these periwinkles are going to come back from the root all on their own. So that's another reason. Don't pull them up. There's no need to pull them up. Now I like to come back and give them a little drink of water too, just so the little seeds that I chopped up won't blow away as easy, because when things dry out, they can be picked up by the wind. There's still going to be plenty there if they didn't get watered in, that they could still reseed themselves. I'm going to be sharing all the results from the periwinkles that I just cut up, the transplants that I dug up, and the perennials I divided all throughout the season coming up. So be sure to subscribe so you can follow along too and just see the transformation. And that's it for this edition of Garden Beauty. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you'll consider subscribing. Feel free to leave your questions or suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll see you again next time.